Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai!
Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki
Jai!
Shri Shrimatai Gaura Sundar ki
Jai!
Sankirtan Yajna ki
Jai!
Shri Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki
Jai!
Shri Srimati Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Just a short musical interlude. I was looking at you. I know you've been sitting there for a while, and I saw some eyelids sort of going down. So, just something to wake us up a bit. And, well, our program is, you can see the clock there. We had to go till 5. That 5. This is what we call, in England, they have what they call Greenwich Mean Time. Greenwich is a sort of a suburb across the Thames on the southern side of London, where, they've got all the scientific equipment for keeping the right time. And so that's Greenwich Mean Time. This is Vaikuntha Mean Time. So you can look at your watch, so it's not the right time. This Jai Jai Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Namo Vishnu Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shanyavani Pastuchari Chatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vajkat Prubhis Jagripa Sindhu Yaevacha, Padidana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. We offer our respects to all the devotees. And we are continuing, we've only got about an hour of time, but we are continuing the little seminar we started yesterday about matchless gifts, the gifts of Lord Chaitanya and his associates also. So we started a little yesterday, and we're going to continue a little further today. when Sanat Goswami and Rupa Goswami, they were living in Ramakeli. It's in northern, if you just go from Mayapur, you just go north about 400 kilometers or something like that, and you come to Ramakeli. It was the seat of government of Bengal at that time. Now it's sort of a backwater out of the way, but it was very important at that time, and that's where not actually the king, but sort of the governor of that area was living, and his name was Hussain Shah. He figures here and there in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, in different incidents and things that happened. So he was ruling from there at that point, and I hate to say it, but he was not very nice. He was not a friendly chappy. I think he was not chanting his rounds. So he was very repressive and aggressive and depressive and things like that. Yeah. And yes, he was anti-Vaishnava. In fact, he was violently anti-Vaishnava. So what happened was that Lord Chaitanya, he was on his way to Vrindavan from Jagannath Puri. At least that was his intention. At that point he didn't make it. He returned to Puri shortly after this. But anyway, Lord Chaitanya came that way from Puri along the coast, then up to the north, and he actually went a little bit to the west, heading towards Vrindavan. So anyway, he was approaching Ramakeli, and Lord Chaitanya, wherever he went, thousands, millions of people even would gather. He was just hugely influential. But the devotees with him knew that this Hussain Shah, we're heading straight towards him, will be there in a couple of days, and he is just not nice at all. So they were worried. It must be very dangerous for Lord Chaitanya. This Hussain Shah, he's the governor, he'll call soldiers and get them to personally attack Lord Chaitanya. It could be just a total disaster, horrible situation. So anyway, you know what happened was that this Hussain Shah, he had what you could call a sort of like minister of Hindu affairs, who was a Hindu gentleman who was a devotee actually. His name was Keshava Khan. And he was a nice devotee. And he was there with Hussain Shah, and he knew Lord Chaitanya was coming. The news was spreading how many people were there, and the size of the chanting parties, and how totally dynamic it was. So he was in great anxiety for the same reason we mentioned this Hussain Shah. It's extremely, it's inevitable. He's going to do something, really horrible. But what to do? What to do? So, just like the next day, Hussein Shah called for ISKCON and he said, who is this Chaitanya person? And ISKCON tried to, make light of it and make it seem like, don't worry about this Chaitanya. Don't worry about it. You got more important things. Well, actually, ISKCON said that. This Hussein Shah said, who is this Chaitanya person? And ISKCON said, who? Chaitanya. Who? Chaitanya. Never heard of him. I don't know. It's just some obscure prophet or something. And Hussein Shah said, no, he's not. Haven't you heard? Now Hussein Shah is sort of preaching to ISKCON. Haven't you heard? This Chaitanya is amazing. Wherever he goes, millions of people gather, and they all chant that, that song of yours, what is it, Hari something? They all do that, and it turns into just, such a scene. And ISKCON said, I know who you're talking about. Don't worry about him, he's just an obscure Hindu fanatic. You got more important things to do. Govern the country. But ISKCON said, no, I have heard he is an incarnation of God. ISKCON couldn't believe it. And Hussein Shah said, he is a great saint. Don't you know that? He's an incarnation of God. He's a very important person. And I am hereby making a proclamation that let him travel through our area. And if anyone want to speak of doing anything, if anyone says anything against him, I'll have him killed. And ISKCON just can't believe it. What's happened to this man? Somehow, just by hearing about Lord Chaitanya, just hearing some of the news, Hussein Shah, his heart, had become deeply affected. So, Hussein Shah said, I want to meet him. And ISKCON thought, no, don't do that. Now listen, you've got more important things to do. Count your money. Do something useful. But no, Hussein Shah decided, I want to meet him tomorrow. So he went with a whole retinue down to meet Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya was in a house, and now Hussein Shah is in that village, coming up, approaching the house where Lord Chaitanya stayed. Lord Chaitanya came out. Hussein Shah sitting on his house, sitting on his horse, suddenly sort of froze. And he's just looking at Lord Chaitanya, just motionless. Suddenly, he fell off the horse, crash on the ground. And he tried to stand up, but he couldn't. He was so overwhelmed in ecstasy, tears pouring from his eyes. His body was shaking in ecstasy. So he crawled over to Lord Chaitanya, took some dust from his feet, crawled back, somehow got put back on the horse and left. So all the devotees were watching this, and they didn't know what to expect. They expected the worst. But now they saw this. They're just completely amazed and overwhelmed, totally. And so they came to Lord Chaitanya and they said, "We can't believe it. We never saw anything like this before, ever. This man was a total demon with a capital D and E and M-O-N. Just beyond hopeless, beyond hopeless. But look what happened to him. We can't believe it." They're telling this to Lord Chaitanya. "We never saw anything like this in our lives, in the history of mankind." And Lord Chaitanya said to them, "You think that was wonderful? Just wait and see." And he spoke, famous verse, "Priti viti achayata nagaradi gram, salvatra prachara haibe morana." In every town and village on the surface of this planet, my holy names will be chanted. So, you think this is wonderful? You just wait and see this happen. That'll be wonderful. That'll really be something wonderful. So, yes, this is the movement of Lord Chaitanya. And at that time, when Lord Chaitanya was talking about this, Priti vite achiyata means pretty on the surface of this planet. In every town, every village, my holy names will be chanted. You know what? He was thinking of Pheonix. Yes. He was thinking of Tongad, Verulam, Richards Bay, Impangeli. He was thinking of Freyheid, Volksrust. You heard of these places? Anyway, these little Afrikaanse dorps out in the middle of nowhere. That Krishna consciousness is going to spread to all of these places. And it's already happening. But there's more to be done. There's more to be done. There's a few little dorpies out there where they don't speak English. And they haven't heard much about Krishna consciousness. We've got to get out there. We've got to get out there, take this movement there. And then in due course, this world will become unrecognizable compared to what it is and what it's been. And you know what will happen? Among many other wonderful things, no more load shedding. No more crazy nonsense. I was just thinking as we're driving over, if Mozambique invaded South Africa, we'd be finished. We'd be finished. Our people, meant to protect us, forget it completely. I mean, if Zimbabwe tried to attack us, it would just be hopeless. We'd be overrun within 24 hours. So we got to do something. I mean, we're not into politics, but we know a good laugh when we see it. And load shedding is a good laugh. Anyway, Okay, so let us, though, just consider some more, a few more little really amazing pastimes, wonderful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. This pastime I'm going to tell you now, there are 2 verses in Chaitanya Bhagavat which are stated at the end. They're like they're phalastutis. Phalastuti means, phala or pala means fruit or result, really, in this context. And stuti means a prayer telling us what is the fruit or the result, in this case, of hearing this pastime. Comes at the end, but we're going to give you a heads up, right up, by telling you what the result is before you hear it, so that when you hear it, we hope no eyelids closing. Anyway, at least you'll be awake and hopefully you'll be really absorbed. So what he says is, anyone who hears this pastime of the Lord with Mukunda will sing with him. Actually means with Mukunda, because Mukunda was one of the singers of Lord Chaitanya. Anyone who feels happiness by hearing this narration will certainly meet Lord Chaitanya face to face. So this is what we're going to talk about now. So now this happened during what is called the Mahaprakash Leela, or Shata Prahariya Leela, the ecstatic pastime which went on for 21 hours. Lord Chaitanya, we mentioned last night, if you were here, that in his school days, up into somewhere into his teens or so, he did not display himself as a devotee and what to speak of as the Supreme Lord. But gradually a group of devotees gathered with him and the Sankirtan movement started, and it was really quite dramatic and amazing. And but Lord Chaitanya, anyway, that one day, what he did, he went to Srivas Thakur's house. That's where they were having the kirtans, all-night kirtans, nocturnal kirtans. So he went there, and you know what he did? On Srivas Thakur's altar was Shalagram Shila. Just, the space was there, but just a little altar sitting on top of the top step of the altar structure. Lord Chaitanya moved the Shalagram Shila to one side and sat on the altar. Don't any of you do that. Whatever you do, just don't do that, all right? Just let the altar stay as it is. But Lord Chaitanya, he did that because he can. He's God. And then he started calling all the devotees. All of them, there were hundreds. One by one, he called them and revealed to them how, either in other appearances of his, like as Lord Ram, or as Krishna, or etc. like that, that particular devotee he had called, had been with him. So that was one type of scenario. The other was how Lord Chaitanya, before he descended as Lord Chaitanya, just before, like in the few decades before he appeared in this world, how he had come from the spiritual world and intervened in the lives of these devotees. So, for example, with Srivas himself, with Srivas, Lord Chaitanya called Srivas and said, you remember, you were so enthusiastic about hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. You remember? Srivas said, yes, oh, I just love Srimad Bhagavatam. And Lord Chaitanya said, you remember when you went to the place, the ashram of Devananda Pandit, who was a big Bhagavatam scholar, but not really a devotee. He was sort of a show-off. He liked to show off that he knew a lot of the stories from the Bhagavatam like that. But he wasn't really a devotee. So Srivas, Lord Chaitanya said, you remember you went there one day because you heard he's a big Bhagavatam scholar, you wanted to hear. And Srivas said, yes, I remember I went there. And Lord Chaitanya said, you remember, you became ecstatic. In the middle of the recitation, this person, Devananda Pandit, is reciting, and suddenly you became emotional, you were crying, and your body was shaking, and sometimes you were making some sounds of ecstasy. And Shiva said, yes, oh, I remember that. But they didn't understand. Him and his students didn't understand. And they picked you up and they threw you out physically into the street. You remember that? And Shiva said, yes, oh, that was so terrible. Shiva said, you know, after that, I thought, I've committed such an offense to Srimad Bhagavatam. I disturbed the meeting. They threw me out to punish me. Oh, that was terrible. And then for the next weeks, I was trying to study the Bhagavatam, but I couldn't concentrate. And I thought, I'm too offensive. The Bhagavatam has rejected me. And Lord Chaitanya said, you know what? I descended from Goloka Vrindavan and I entered your heart. And then suddenly you found you were just relishing the Bhagavatam again, just apparently out of nowhere, just completely absorbed in the Bhagavatam. That was me. I entered your heart. And Srivas fainted in ecstasy. Then another devotee, his name is not given, but he's another devotee. And Lord Chaitanya said to him, you remember, one night you had a fever, and it seemed that that was the end. And you couldn't find a doctor, and you're just getting weaker and weaker. And the fever was getting higher and higher. And you thought, that's it, I'm finished. But then suddenly, a doctor just arrived out of nowhere. A doctor you'd never seen before. And he gave you some medicine, and on the spot you were completely cured. You remember that? And the devotee said, yes, I remember that. I couldn't believe it. I never saw him before, and I never saw him after. Lord Chaitanya said, that was me. I descended from Goloka Vrindavan to save you. So all these types of things were happening. With one of his teachers, Gangadas Pandit, Lord Chaitanya said, you remember, one night, the Muslims attacked your village. And you were on the other side of the village, So you heard what was going on, and you grabbed your family and you just left. Gangadhar said, yes, oh, I remember that. I remember that. And Lord Chaitanya said then, so you left, but then you came to the river, the Ganges, and it was the middle of the night. There was no boatman, and you're just stuck there on the bank of the Ganges with your family. And you heard those soldiers coming closer and closer, and all the screaming of the people being killed and raped and everything. And you thought, I cannot witness what they're going to do to my wife and daughters. I'm going to commit suicide. So you were just about to cut your own throat when suddenly a boatman appeared in a boat. Just appeared, just like that, out of nowhere. And you jumped in the boat and you said, my dear boatman, please take us to the other side. I will give you everything. I will give you my life. I will dedicate my life to your service. Please take us. And the boatman took you across. And Gangadhar said, yes, I remember that. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. There's no boatman. There's no boat. It's the middle of the night. Suddenly, there's a boat with a boatman right there who took us away and saved our lives. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, that was me. I descended from Goloka Vrindavan to save you. So Lord Chaitanya is saying all these types of things. And the devotees are just becoming completely amazed. Murari Gupta. Lord Chaitanya called Murari Gupta and told Murari, look at me, tell me what you see. And Murari looked at Lord Chaitanya and he said, I see Sita and Ram, because Murari is actually Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya said, look at Nityananda, what do you see? And he said, Nityananda is Lakshman. And Lord Chaitanya said, Murari said, but something's wrong. Where's Hanuman? I don't see Hanuman. And Lord Chaitanya said, Murari, look at yourself, Murari. And he looked at himself and he saw he was Hanuman. Sure. So things like this were happening. It was really amazing. Then he called Haridas Thakur, and Vrindavan Thakur says, one who hears this pastime of the Lord and Haridas Thakur with proper faith will certainly enjoy the fruit of Lord Krishna's prema. So, did you catch that? Anyway, if you're interested in Lord Krishna's prema, listen. So, Lord Chaitanya says to Haridas, look at me, Haridas. Your body and birth is superior to mine, and your class and caste is more elevated than mine. Listen, Haridas, when you were lashed with the whip in 22 marketplaces, I took up my Sudarshan disc and descended to the earth from Goloka Vrindavan to sever the tormentors' heads. So when they were trying to beat you to death, all along you were thinking of their well-being. You were unconcerned about your own pain, and you only had compassion for them. And because of your merciful heart, I couldn't use any force. My Sudarshan disc became impotent. I couldn't kill them. So what I did, because you were determined to forgive them, I was unable to watch your misery. So I lay across your back, and I took those lashings. And Lord Chaitanya turned his back to Haridas Thakur and said, see the scars on my back. And Haridas looked and saw all these scars on Lord Chaitanya's back. What? Lord Chaitanya, the pain he had accepted for his devotee. Of course, generally Lord Chaitanya's back was not like that, but for Haridas he showed it like that. He said, I accepted all those lashes meant for you on your back. See the marks on my back. I'm not lying. Whatever other secondary reasons there were for my descent, unable to bear your sufferings, I hastened my advent to this world. And then Vrindavan Das Thakur comments, our beloved Lord Chaitanya is very proficient in expanding the glories of his devotees. He will say or do anything to glorify and protect his devotees. He will even swallow fire for his devotees and willingly become his devotee's slave. So now there's the pastime of Mukunda at the same place, the same time. Lord Chaitanya called everyone. 21 hours it was going on. 21 hours. And then he told Srivas, whose place it is, all right, that's enough. I've called everyone. We're finished. We're finished. And Srivas said, actually, you know, my Lord, you forgot one person. You forgot Mukunda. Can you just call him and speak to him and give him some blessings? Can you do that? And Lord Chaitanya suddenly became very angry and said, I will not see that Mukunda ever again. Ever. Never. And Srivas asked, why? And Lord Chaitanya said, this Mukunda, he lives in a big, big extended family. There's so many uncles and aunts and cousins and brothers and sisters. And many of them are Mayavadis, impersonalists. And some of them are Shivites. And some of them are worshippers of Durga and other demigods and so on. And this Mukunda, you know what he does? When he's with the ones who are impersonalists, and they say, it's all one, I'm God, you're God, then that Mukunda, he agrees with them. He says, yes, yes, you're right, you're right. And when he's with the Shivites, and they say, they have a mantra, Shiva Stu Bhagavan Swayam. Shiva is the spirit. He agrees, yes, you're right. Shiva Stu Bhagavan Swayam. Haribol. And when he's with the worshippers of Durga, and they say, Durga Stu Bhagavan Swayam, he agrees, yes, all glories to Durga. So he's a hypocrite. He's just a hypocrite. And I never want to see him. I will never see him again, ever. So Srivas is in shock. Mukunda was just outside in the courtyard and he heard this. And he just broke down crying, completely overwhelmed in distress. And Srivas went out there and Mukunda said, Srivas, can you please tell our Lord that it's not really like that? I have to live with these people. And if I argue with them we're just going to fight and fight and fight, and it'll just be impossible. So therefore I say, yes, all glories to this one and that one. Madravir and Kijai. Just to pacify them, to avoid like a pitched battle. But I don't care. This is why I don't agree with them actually, but I just have no choice. So Sridhas went back in and explained to Lord Chaitanya that, it's really like this, and he has no interest at all in these other philosophies and deities and so on. He's just fully devoted to you. All right. I will see him in 10 million lifetimes. 10 million lifetimes. So Srivas went out to tell Mukunda, but Mukunda had heard already. And Mukunda was completely in ecstasy, calling out, only 10 million lifetimes! Only 10 million! My Lord again! Oh, how wonderful! And he's just crying out, I will see, I will see, I will see, only 10 million lifetimes! And Srivas went back in and said, he's very happy actually. And Lord Chaitanya said, oh, just bring it in now. So Srivas went out to get him, but they couldn't catch him because he was jumping, like serious jumping, up to touch the roof, rolling. And he was flying and screaming in ecstasy. Only 10 million lifetimes I will see my Lord. Finally they caught him and they brought him in. And he came before Lord Chaitanya, offered his obeisances, and Lord Chaitanya said, I was just testing you. And you passed the test. You are such a devotee. You are just such a devotee. Lord Chaitanya said that actually you were just like my little son. You can say anything, it doesn't matter. I don't take any notice. I just love you. So then he gave a blessing to Mukunda that wherever I go, in any universe, anywhere, you'll come with me and you'll sing for me. Because Mukunda, he was an amazing singer, incredible singer. We mentioned yesterday, actually, even better, can you believe it? You may not, but it's true. Even better than Ravindra Swarup. That's why we did it. It wasn't so good. We did with it right. It's really good. But Mukunda, like we mentioned yesterday, the rocks would melt when he'd sing. Even the wood would melt. Can you imagine? Even the wood would melt. Yes. And therefore, it was very dangerous. Generally, he would do kirtan outside. Because if he's in a building like this, which is, concrete at least and bricks, it would melt on top of us. And that would be a serious problem. Yeah. During the Govardhan Leela, when Lord Chaitanya is holding Govardhan Hill, but his right hand is free. What to do with it? Got to engage it in his service. So he had his flute stuck in his sort of, not belt, but something like that around his waist. He thought, I know, I'm just going to play on my flute with my right hand. So he pulled out his flute, put it to his lips, was just about to play, and Madhu Mangal came running up and said, Krishna, don't play the flute. Put it back. Don't play it. Don't you dare play it. Because if you do, we're all underneath the hill. It's going to melt on us. And we'll be finished. So you don't play the flute. So Mukunda, he would generally do kirtan outside because of that danger. Inside the building, the whole thing might cave in. Yeah, he was really amazing. Carry on. Keep working on it. Yeah. Sooner or later, you might have to play outside there. Anyway. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to stop. Because. Okay, there's a prasadam, right? Prasadam. Takes precedence. Krishna Katana. Well, not really. Okay, I'll finish with one. There were two, but I'll finish with one. This is an interesting one. And this is actually Rama Leela. And you might know this. Some of these you might not know so much, like Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. But this is Rama Leela. I'm sure some of you will know. At the end of the battle, and everyone actually, they've gone back to Ayodhya, as I recall. Lord Ram had a gathering of all the monkeys and bears and soldiers, that he gathered them all. and he had a Thanksgiving program. He thanked each one individually. Each one. You know the story. Oh, you do. Oh, you don't. That's 50-50. You don't. Okay. So, yeah, and he was giving everyone gifts. Jewelry and, whatever, clothing and things like that. Everyone got a gift. But Hanuman, he's very humble devotee. He was waiting back. He wasn't even in the queue. In the end, Lord Ram had given everyone. He'd given everything. Had nothing left. And then he called Hanuman. He said, Hanuman, I'm so sorry. I finished everything. Nothing left. All the jewelry, gold, kingdoms. He even gave some kingdoms. It's all gone. I'm really sorry about that. And Hanuman said, no, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not interested in some gold or jewels, things like that. No interest. No interest at all. But there is just one thing I want from you. Little thing. It's so little. It's free. Even you gave cloth. At least that costs something. But what I want from you, please, it's free, but it's the most wonderful thing. It's just the most wonderful thing. Please. So Lord Ram, they couldn't figure it out. They said, oh, what is this, Hanuman? What do you want? So Hanuman said, my Lord, please, just give me your name. That's all. Just give me your name, Ram. That's all I want. Nothing else. And then, everything is in your name, actually. The whole universe is in your name. So you're giving me more than what you gave everyone else put together. But that's all I want, just your name, so I can chant your name. So Lord Ram said yes. you take my name. So the holy names, the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These are the most wonderful things. The most wonderful things. I would tell you, Sanatana Goswami in the touchstone, but I'm sure you all know that story. But all you need is the name, the names. You actually don't need anything else at all. Zero. You don't need anything else. But of course, to realize that, you've got to get into it. You've really got to chant the names from the heart. Like your life depends on it, your future depends on it, because it does. Yeah. So that's my little message from my little seminar. It's just a very abbreviated seminar. But please, take from it the names of the Lord and take them into your heart and chant them from your heart, not just as a matter, of course, or just because you have to, just because you told your spiritual master when you got initiated, I'll chant 16 rounds. Not just as a duty or something like that, but really from the heart. And then the Lord will appear in your heart, and your life will become perfect. Hare Krishna. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki. Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundara Ki. Shri Prabhupada